Hello, friends. If someone in your family has passed away and they ever paid into the Canada Pension Plan, there is a payment of up to $5,000 sitting and waiting. But Service Canada will not call you. They will not write you a letter. And there is a 60-day clock running that most families never hear about until it's too late. 6 things you need to know about the CPP death benefit, and stay with me until number 6, because that's the one almost everyone gets completely backwards, and it can quietly cost your family $700 or $800. Number 1. The real amount, because the headlines lie to you. The base CPP death benefit is a flat $2,500. Flat. It doesn't matter if your father worked 40 years earning 6 figures or 20 years at minimum wage. The base number is the same $2,500 for almost everyone. Before 1998, the amount used to scale with earnings, and that's why old advice online is wrong. Since then, it has been frozen at $2,500. Now, here's what changed. For deaths on or after January 1st, 2025, there is a new top-up that can raise it to a maximum of $5,000. But that top-up is narrow, and most families will never see it. To get the full $5,000, the person who died must have qualified for the death benefit, must have never received a CPP or Quebec Pension Plan retirement pension or disability benefit, and must have no surviving spouse or common law partner who is eligible for a survivor's pension. Read that again. That top-up is really aimed at people who died before they ever started collecting their pension, and who were single or widowed. So here's the trap. A family budgets for $5,000 for a parent who was already receiving their monthly CPP check, but that parent only qualifies for the $2,500. Picture Margaret in Hamilton. Her father collected CPP for 11 years before he died in March 2025, so the moment he cashed his first pension check back in 2014, the $5,000 top-up was off the table. She received $2,500, not the $5,000 she'd already promised her brother, and had to claw back $1,250 from him. Your first action this week: pull up their bank statements and find out whether the person who died ever drew a single CPP retirement or disability deposit, usually a payment on the third last banking day of the month. If they did, expect $2,500, not $5,000, and don't spend money you haven't confirmed. Number 2. The 60-day clock, and what it actually means. Service Canada says the executor should apply for the death benefit within 60 days of the date of death. Now let me be honest with you, because you'll hear a lot of fear online about this. The money is not shredded at midnight on day 61, but the priority changes. For those first 60 days, the estate, meaning the executor named in the will, has first claim on that payment. If the executor doesn't apply within 60 days, Service Canada can then pay other eligible people instead. And here is the real way families lose this money. They assume the funeral home already took care of it. Many funeral homes do apply because they're often the ones who got paid. And if the funeral home claimed the $2,500 and applied it against your bill, the estate cannot turn around and claim it a second time. Take David in Ottawa, whose mother's funeral cost $9,200. The funeral director quietly claimed the $2,500 and credited it to the invoice. So when David mailed his own form 11 weeks later, Service Canada rejected it in writing. The one payment was gone, and he'd wasted 2 months waiting. Or the opposite happens. Everyone assumes someone else applied, and nobody does. And the payment simply sits there unclaimed for a year. Your action: this week, before day 60, confirm in writing whether anyone, the funeral home or the executor, has already submitted Form ISP 1200 and get a copy of the receipt if the funeral home did. And keep that 60-day clock in mind, because it feeds straight into number 6, the tax decision most families get exactly backwards. Number 3, who is actually allowed to apply in strict order. This is not first come, first served, and it's not automatic for the spouse. The order is set by law. First in line is the estate, the executor named in the will, or the administrator appointed by a court. If there is no estate, or the executor doesn't apply, then payment goes in this exact order. First, the person or institution that paid the funeral expenses. Second, the surviving spouse or common law partner. And third, the next of kin. So here is the mistake that causes chaos. The surviving spouse assumes the money is automatically theirs and mails in a form, while the estate actually has first claim. Or, two different relatives each send in their own ISP 1200, and the whole thing jams up for months while Service Canada sorts out who's entitled. Consider two sisters in Surrey who each mailed a form in the same week in February. The file was flagged as a conflicting claim and frozen for over 4 months, and neither saw a cent of the $2,500 until they both signed a letter agreeing which one would be paid. There is only one payment, and it goes to one recipient. So decide as a family, at the kitchen table, before anyone mails anything, who is applying. If there's a will with an executor, that person applies full stop. If there's no estate, get the funeral receipt showing exactly who paid and how much, because that receipt is the single document that puts the funeral payer next in line. Number 4. Did the person who died even qualify? Because this benefit is not automatic just because someone was a senior. The person who died must have contributed enough to the Canada Pension Plan. The rule is specific. They must have paid into CPP for at least 1/3 of the calendar years in their contributory period, and never fewer than 3 calendar years in total. Their contributory period generally runs from age 18 up to the month they died or started their pension. So think about who this can leave out. Someone who immigrated to Canada at 62 and only worked 2 years before passing at 65 falls short of the 3-year floor, and the family waits 6 weeks only to be denied in a letter. Or a homemaker who raised 4 children and never paid $1 into CPP in their own name. A woman in Brampton lost her husband at 67 and assumed the $2,500 was guaranteed. But he'd only ever filed 2 years of Canadian tax before the family emigrated. The claim was denied outright. They may not qualify at all. One more thing, and this matters for Quebec. If the person worked only in Quebec, they were under the Quebec Pension Plan, not CPP. In that case, you apply to Retraite Quebec, not Service Canada. And the QPP death benefit is also a flat $2,500. Your action: pull the deceased statement of contributions from their My Service Canada account before you assume they qualify, and count the years of contributions with a check mark. Anything under 3, and you stop right there instead of filing a claim that will bounce. Number 5. The form and the mistakes that delay your money by months. The form you need is ISP 1200, the Canada Pension Plan Death Benefit Application. Important detail: you cannot apply for the death benefit online. It is a paper form that you mail in or drop at a Service Canada office in person. You'll need the deceased's social insurance number, their date of death, proof of death or a death certificate, and details about the applicant and the estate. Processing normally takes 6 to 12 weeks. Now the mistakes: sending in an incomplete form, a missing SIN, no death certificate, doesn't just slow things down. It can push your payment back by months while they mail you back asking for what's missing. One widower in Winnipeg forgot to attach the death certificate and turned an 8-week wait into a 5-month one, receiving his $2,500 the following spring. And here's the one that costs families the most in the long run. They apply for the $2,500 death benefit and completely forget the 2 other benefits available at the same time: the CPP survivor's pension for a spouse and the children's benefit, which pays over $290 a month per eligible child. Those are separate. They're ongoing month after month, and over the years they're worth far more than the one-time death benefit. A 55-year-old widow drawing a survivor's pension for 30 years collects many times that single $2,500. Your action: apply for the death benefit, the survivor's pension, and the children's benefit together in one sitting so you never leave the recurring money on the table chasing the one-time check. Number 6, the one almost everyone gets backwards. Most families believe the $2,500 is tax-free, like a life insurance payout. It is not. The CPP death benefit is taxable income, and someone has to report it and pay tax on it. Here's the part that gets reversed. Who it's taxed to depends on who receives it, and you can often choose the cheaper path. If the benefit is paid to the estate, it goes on the estate's T3 trust return, and the estate has its own graduated tax rates, so it's frequently taxed at little or nothing. But if an individual claims it personally, say the son who paid for the funeral or the next of kin, it can land on that person's own tax return and get taxed at their full marginal rate. Picture a daughter already earning $90,000 a year in Ontario, sitting in a marginal bracket around 30%. Drop that $2,500 onto her personal T1, and roughly $750 vanishes to tax, when routing it through the estate's T3 could have cost close to zero. And here's what almost nobody knows. Even when an individual receives the payment, if there is an estate, the CRA allows that $2,500 to be reported on a T3 return instead of on the individual's personal T1. That single choice can save real money. The mistake is a grieving family member grabbing the $2,500 in March, dropping it onto their own income, and handing $700 back to the CRA the following April that they never had to pay. So before anyone claims it, ask one question: should this flow through the estate instead of a person? So the money is real, the clock is real, but the biggest loss isn't missing the 60 days. It's letting the wrong person claim it and then handing part of it straight back to the CRA. Your one job this week is simple. Find out whether anyone has already filed Form ISP 1200 for your loved one, and if not, decide as a family who applies and whether it should run through the estate. If this helped you protect even one payment, subscribe and share it with someone who has just lost a parent, because they may only have days left on that clock.